What's up, everyone? I'm Vin, and I'm going live doing the STAAR 8th grade exam from March 2017. This is review for the 8th grade STAAR exam, 2024. So, yeah, thank you to anybody that comes on live and also watches the replay. It's, good to have people on board here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all 42 questions on this live stream. And let me just go ahead and put a link in the description here. I'm just double check that in the description here we actually do have the actual exam for people to go ahead and download. So let me just see here. Just want to double check on this, but I will give time also for people to check in. Anyone taking the exam is welcome, and of course anyone who just wants to stop by and say hello, you're all welcomed here. So let's just see. The got to be away right from the settings here just to see exactly how I have this set up. Okay, so all right, well, we do have some people on board, but once again, hello to anybody joining, and I will get rolling here in just a few. So let's see. Let me just scroll to the actual test questions here, but this is the March 2017 test. Okay, so I just want to see viewer. Okay, so we are pretty much good to go here. All right. Yeah, just want to double check one more thing, and then I will. Oh, here we go. The details. Oh, I did post the exam in the description. Perfect. So we're just good to go here then. Excellent. All right. So, anyone is welcome to say hello in the chat, as, you sign on. But otherwise, I'm just going to get rolling here. We do have quite a few questions to get through. So I'll show a mix of no calculator and calculator solutions to these. But yeah, you can follow along with the exam and see how you do. So question 1, which graph shows a non-proportional, so we're looking for the one that has a non-proportional linear relationship between x and y. So for something like this, one thing I look for is a direct proportion. A direct proportion is something in the form of y equals kx. So I would say y is directly proportional to x if y equals kx, and k is our constant of proportionality. Now, a shortcut for a question like this, if we're looking for a non-proportional linear relationship, we want to look for one of these graphs here that cannot be represented in this form. But one thing about a direct proportion is that the point 0, 0 is going to be on this line. Okay, so this linear equation, 0, 0, will be a part of it. So just looking through all the answer choices, see we have 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, except choice B is the only one that doesn't contain the point 0, 0. So that's why this one here is a linear relationship, but it's not a direct proportion between x and y. For example, if I look at, let's say, this point here, 2, 2, and then a moment later I look at this point, 4, 6, you could see over here that if this is my x and this is my y, then y would be equal to 2 times x. You see that we'd have y equals 2 times the value of x here. So let me just clean this up a bit, and I'll just write in the actual numbers here. I could say, oh, y2 is equal to the x value 2 times 1, but then a moment later, my y value 6 is equal to 4 times, and if I were to solve for this k value, I would get a k value of 6 over 4. Okay, so notice I would get a k value here equal to 1. Here I get a k value of 6 over 4. So this is not a direct proportion. A direct proportion, the line has to go through 0, 0. Okay, so this part here, make that neater, is essential. So that's how I know right away that choice B is no good. I mean, choice B is no good, so it's our answer. We want the one that's non-proportional linear. Cool. All right, moving on to question 2. And from here, this one is just a matter of knowing the rules. All right, so we want to know the rules for transforming a shape using this particular set of rules here. All right. So here we have the coordinate grid shows a pentagon, and the pentagon is translated 1 unit to the left and 10 units down to create a new pentagon. So for this one, what we want to do is we want to know which rule describes this transformation. If we're going 1 unit to the left, what that means is we're going to take the x values and we're going to subtract 1 from them. And then if we're going 10 units down, we're going to take the y values and subtract 10 from those. Okay, so we could see here, if we just scan the answer choices and we know how the rules work, choice F is going to be our answer. But let's say here we want to say a little bit more. Okay, if we want to say a little bit more, then we could just follow one of the points. Like let's say I take this point over here. So I take the point, this is the point 4, 6. And I'm not going to write in crayon. So 4, 6. And if I go 1 unit left, I'm here, and 10 units down. So I go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I lost count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I land at 3, -4. Let's follow this rule that we just wrote down here. If our x is equal to 4 and our original y value is equal to 6, if I run it through the equation or the formula here, I would have 4 - 1, 6 - 10. And if I do the subtraction here, 4 - 1 is 3, 6 - 10 is -4. You see, so I could also just pick a point on the pentagon and run it through the rule and see which one gives me the image. Okay, so choice F is our answer. All right. Oh, hello, Luis Trujillo, if I'm saying it properly with the proper accents. Love from Colombia. I feel like I recognized your name before. Were you on like one of my calculus live streams way back when? But it's nice to, nice to see you, Luis, once again. So, yeah, sending love from New York. Nice to have you on board. I don't know why some of the names, they just sound familiar. Some people I recognize, but anyone is welcomed to be on board here. My goal with these live streams is to just try to reach out to like more of not just the US, but the world. AP Calculus is a little bit easier to reach people because that exam is international. But I'm doing the STAAR exams, even though I mainly teach in New York. Texas is a really big state, and I just think this would be exciting to, interact with students from like a really big state and just get as many people on board as possible. Okay, so which value is not located between these two numbers on the number line? Now, for this one, you could just use a calculator and brute force type in this number, and the answer choices. But I'll practice some of our no calculator math as well. So here, the square root of 9 is equal to 3 because 3 times 3 is 9. And when I do 3 divided by 3, this is equal to 1. So this number here is really equal to 1. And now pi is roughly equal to 3.14 and then 159 and so on. But if I stop it here, I could say 2 pi is roughly 6.28. Okay, so if I want to practice some no calculator stuff, I'm looking for a number here between 1 and 6.28. So right away, which one is not located? Okay, so even after I underlined it 3 times, something was throwing me off because I was like, wait a minute, pi is roughly 3.14, and this is definitely between 1 and 6.28. Square root of 9 is equal to 3, which is definitely between 1 and 6.28. So this one's out, this one's out. Pi over 9, oh, here we go, is roughly 3.14 over 9. So this one here, I'll just make that neater. So 3.14 over 9. This is the rough approximation. And this makes me think of 3 over 9. So this is like roughly 1/3. And that is less than 1. So this one's looking like it. Okay. Pi squared, if I did 3.14 squared over 9, 3 times 3 is 9. So if I do a number a little bit more than 3 squared, that's going to be a little bit more than 9. So this one here is definitely looking like it's just greater than 1. So this one's out. But if I had to here, if I had to do this the most reliable way. Of course, I could just type in the last two answer choices. I could press second, the up arrow here for the pi, go over 9. And then I could do pi squared is second pi squared and then over 9. And you could see here 1.0966. Okay, so 1.0966 if I had to get this last one. So 1.0966 is definitely between 1 and 6.28. So that's why choice C is definitely our answer here. Okay, so moving on. Anyone in the chat actually taking the STAAR 8th grade exam? So, let me know. And if you have any specific questions as I'm doing this, please speak up. I'm happy to take, individual questions. All right. So a water hose discharges water at a rate of 45 gallons per minute. Which graph has a slope that best represents this rate? Okay, 45 gallons per minute means every time a minute goes by, 45 gallons are discharged. So if I just think of a table here, like let's say X is time, which they're labeling. So X is time. And the Y column here, or the Y axis, is modeling the amount of water in gallons. If we're talking about a hose that discharges water at a rate of 45 gallons per minute, that means 1 minute goes by, 45 gallons comes out. 2 minutes goes by, and 45 times 2, or 90 gallons, goes out. 3, I do another plus 45 is 135, and so on. So here, you see how this is the point 145, 290, 3, 135. This one is looking like it right away. But anytime that happens, like when your first answer is like the answer, what you should definitely do is like look at the others and see why they're no good. Okay, so here, so this is our answer for now. And then we'll see if there's anything that makes us second guess. So the problem here is this is saying, oh, in the first minute, only 15 gallons comes out. But 45 gallons are supposed to come out per minute. So that's why G is no good. Choice H is just like really bizarre. What's the story with this one? So that means like the hose is going and there's just, I guess maybe there's like, it just starts out like 45 gallons was discharged, but then the hose is like not discharging any more water. Okay, so it's kind of weird like how this thing could start at 45. That just doesn't make sense. So here it's, yeah, like maybe they discharge 45 and they're like, oh, I don't want to discharge water anymore. So they turn the hose off. So this one here, like no more water is coming out. It's just like a 0, the slope here. So the slope here is 0, which says in the context of the question that no more water is coming out. Okay, here the problem is the slope is too steep. This says after 1 minute, we have 60 gallons of water that came out. So it can't be choice J. So definitely F. Cool. All right, this one. So we will zoom in a bit so we can see a little better. And let's see, triangle MNP is graphed on a coordinate grid with vertices M, N, and P. And triangle MNP is dilated by a scale factor of U with the origin as the center of dilation to create this triangle. Which ordered pair represents the coordinates of vertex P prime? Okay, for one, just know that when you have a point XY and you do a dilation, this is the notation if you've never seen it. The dilation with a center at the origin. So we're just going to say that O means if I have some graph here, that O is the origin. So that's our center. And we dilate by a scale factor of U. Then the coordinates are just going to be X times U. And so I could just say here like X times U, comma, Y times U. All right, so that's the idea we're going to use for this question. And they're asking us to focus specifically on point P prime, which is the image of point P. So that's the one we want. All the other points are just a distraction. So here, if I take point P, 6, -3, and I run it through this dilation that I have listed above, I'm just going to multiply the X and the Y by U. So that's going to be 6U, comma, -3U. And that's going to match up with choice D. The problem with this one, so why is this one no good? This one's no good because this is going to the right u units. So it's going to the right u, and it's going up u units. Okay. This one, they divided. This would be a scale factor of 1 over u. So that's why this one's no good. And then this one, they go to the right and up 1 over u. So this is like really just off. So choice D, definitely. All right. So moving on. Question 6 out of 42. We got a ways to go. Oh, you're taking an online AP Calc BC course. So, all right, for learning series, your best bet, it's a game of patience. All right. Unit 10 just tends to really rattle people. I tell my students in person to just stay the course. With learning series, the best advice I could give, in terms of learning it the right way, would be to really focus on big ideas. So sneak preview for people taking calculus one day. But in terms of unit 10, your main question here is, what does it mean for a series to converge, diverge? You want to learn the difference between a regular series and a power series. Okay, so there's techniques that you just want to be good at. Like you just have to know all the convergence tests. Like there's a bunch of them. The nth term test, the ratio test, all that stuff, alternating series test, the direct comparison, limit comparison. But in terms of concepts, you really just want to think about, what does it mean for a series to converge? What does it mean for a series to diverge? A series will converge simply if like the terms that you're adding forever are shrinking fast enough. If they don't shrink fast enough, then the series diverges. So not just learning the techniques, but really focusing on the big ideas is essential for Unit 10. But just be patient. Just keep doing questions and looking at the walkthrough. But just know, BC, I will do live streams for that test. I'm planning on doing 4. I'm gonna do units 1 through 5, units 6 through 10. Then I'm gonna do free response practice, and then I'll just do like mixed multiple choice questions again. I'll see how we do the night before. All right, but I am gonna get back to the 8th grade because that is the theme here. But I do, appreciate you coming on, Luis, to support and bring the chat alive here. But good luck in preparing. That's impressive that you're doing this as an online course. That's really cool. I'm rooting for you. It's good that you're thinking about the test this far in advance. So, all right, let's see. The table shows the number of gallons of gasoline in a car's gas tank after the car has been driven X miles. All right. So here, well, that makes sense that the gas is dropping because as you drive more, your gas starts to go away. So when these data are graphed on a coordinate grid, the points all lie on the same line. Okay, so that means we have a constant rate of change. Okay, so constant rate of change. That is what's happening here. Constant rate of change. So what are the slope and y-intercept of this line? So a line, the y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis. So if you just look at this point here, 0, 15, that means the line is going to cross the y-axis here. And then if I pick another nice point like 75, 12, 75 is out here and 12 is over here. So these are 2 points that are like definitely on this line. Okay, like that's what I'm thinking of here is like this going on here. So the y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis, which happens at 15. So just that alone is going to eliminate these 2 choices. See, these choices here are out. And from this step, now we just have to find the slope. So the slope here, we could use the formula y2. Let me just make this neater. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And from here, I am using these 2 points. So I could call this point my x1, y1. And I'll call this point my x2, y2. So if I run these points through the slope formula, I'm going to have 12 minus 15 divided by 75 minus 0. And the nice thing is the fact that the points all lie on the same line means that these points all form a straight line. And that means we could just do this using the slope formula. And I could pick any 2 points, but I picked the ones without decimals because those are the easiest to work with. 12 minus 15 is negative 3 over 75. And now if I divide the top and bottom by 3, I'm going to get the slope equals negative 1 over 25. Okay, so choice G would be our answer. If you're like, hey, I want to use the calculator more than anything, then what you could do, this is a nice little trick, is you could go to stats, edit, and I'm just going to type in everything. So I have 0, 10, 20. And to be honest, they said all of the points lie on a straight line. So I don't even have to type in the whole X and Y columns. I could just type in 2 points, but I'll put 3 just in case. So the first Y value we have is 15. Then we have 14.6. And then we have 14.2. So here's a little trick. You first go to mode and make sure that diagnostics, the stat diagnostic is on. So I'm just going to scroll down to stat diagnostic and put it on. And now I'm going to go to stats, edit, linear regression, option 4. We'll write the equation of a line with those points that we just found. So here, the only catch is, I'm just going to copy and paste this, is that the slope A is expressed as negative 0.04. So if I write negative 0.04 and press enter, and then I press math, enter, enter, you see it converts my slope to a fraction just as I need it to match the answers. Okay. So I could, without doing any math by hand, just use the calculator, do everything. But as the teacher, I don't know, my philosophy is like, I'll try to show you both because I would want you to know how to do the math by hand. All right. If you get in the habit of like just using the calculator for everything, then when you have to do certain like parts of higher level math, you want to be able to like see the connections yourself. You don't want to have to use technology for everything, because then you're just not going to trust your own line of thinking. Okay. Like, of course, there's ways of just being efficient. Like, this is efficient. This is working smart to get the answer. But I would say you should know how to get the answer by hand also. It'll just make you better at math. Cool. All right. Question 7. We have a cylinder, and we want to know which equation can be used to find V, the volume of the cylinder, in cubic inches. So there is a reference page, and this is a nice formula to have. The volume of a cylinder is pi r squared times h. Now, one thing they do to be funny is they give you the diameter instead of the radius. So some students who just rush through this are going to say, oh, pi times 5 squared. They're going to go pi 5 squared times 7. And they're going to go searching here. Oh, that says height, not 7. I got to eat more carrots. Okay. So pi times 5 squared times h. And they're going to go, oh, cool, choice D. But no, just be careful here. The diameter is 5. So if we divide 5 by 2, this tells us our radius is 2.5. Okay, so the radius would be half the length of the diameter. And that's what we're going to plug in. The volume is pi times the radius is 2.5. And we're going to leave the units out because all of the answers left the units out. Squared and then times h. So it's actually going to be choice C here. Okay, choice C is our answer to 7. Cool. All right. So moving on. Let's see. The approximate volume in milliliters, M, for a volume of F fluid ounces is equal to 29.57 times the value of F. Which table represents this relationship? All right, that's something I would want to reread more than once. Okay, so for a volume of the approximate volume in milliliters, M, for a volume of F fluid ounces is equal to 29.57 times the value of F. Okay, so F is the one being multiplied by this. So I could say here that M, the approximate volume in milliliters for a volume of F fluid ounces, is equal to 29.57 times the value of f. Okay, so this is what I am thinking about here. Whatever f is, I multiply it by 29.57 to get m. So m should be the greater value here. See here, m is a bunch of small values. So that's how I know that f is out. Okay, m is 29.57 times greater than f. So this one's out. And let's see, m is big in this one and this one. So those two are contenders. But let's see, g, same problem. M is small. If I do 29.57 times this, it's going to be a big number, not 0. So this is out. And then if I look here, the battle between these two, all right, the problem here is that if f is 0, m should also be 0. Because if I multiply 29.57 times 0, I'm going to get 0. So this one's out. It has to be j. All right, so this would be it. And this one you could also just graph like, graph y equals 29.57 times x and see that it gives you the same thing. The only thing different would be I would call this x and I would call this y. All right, so if you'd rather use the calculator and just set up an equation, you could do that. You could say y equals 29.57 times x. And I go to the graph, the table, I press second graph. And you see I get 0, 0, I get 1, 29.57, all the way down to 4, 118.28. So definitely that last answer choice. All right. Yeah, those questions you just have to read carefully. They're just like worded kind of funny, and you just have to read them carefully. Hello, at Anil. Nice to have you on board. And yeah, I probably could have done a better job of advertising this 8th grade STAAR review. If anyone is taking that exam tomorrow in the chat, if you wouldn't mind telling me, I'm sorry, if anyone is taking the 8th grade exam, the STAAR exam, if you wouldn't mind telling me like if the test is tomorrow or are schools just doing it over the course of like a week. I'm just not super familiar with the testing procedure for Texas. I know in New York, we basically just do the test in one day for everybody. At least for the high school exams, but I'm not completely up to speed on how things are done. So let me know if you're taking the 8th grade STAAR exam. When is the test? Is it tomorrow? Actually, I imagine it. I think tomorrow. Actually, I don't know. I'll leave it up. I looked at the calendar, knowing that it was coming up like soon, so that's why I scheduled it for now. But just thinking out loud. Okay, the manager of a car dealership wants to attach a rope with flags to the top of the pole and to a stake in the ground. Okay, so basically here, based on the diagram, what is the distance in feet from the top of the pole is here to the bottom of the stake? So here. So we have a right triangle and we are finding the length of the hypotenuse. So here it helps to know this formula. It helps to know that if you have a right triangle and this side is AB and this side is C, then A squared plus B squared equals C squared. The Pythagorean theorem is a formula you just should know. Okay, this is like one of the poster formulas of 8th grade and even high school math. So we'll call the missing side C. So then A squared, I would do 26 squared plus 19.5 squared equals C squared. And if this is one of those show your work, record, I believe here though that like they just grade you on like the answer you get. I'm pretty sure here they're not exactly like checking the quality of your work. But in terms of showing your work, like this is fine. I could combine these two first. I could do this number squared plus this number squared. But if we're just going to use a calculator, we could just square root both sides. But honestly, whatever makes you happier, you could just go ahead and do. Like if you'd rather see it step by step, I go back to the main screen and I'd have 26 squared plus 19.5 squared. Okay, and then I could just take the square root of that number. I just press enter on it. And it gives me everything that I need. Okay, so this is all that we need to close this out. Okay, so this, we want to just write down all of the stuff. We have 1056.25 is equal to C squared. And then we square root both sides. That's the opposite of squaring is square rooting. And this is going to give us the length of the hypotenuse is 32.5. Okay, so 32.5 would be our answer. All right, cool. So Pythagorean theorem, just, yeah, that's an important one. All right, scatter plot. This one was honestly like definitely a bit annoying. There's a way to do this if you're just like what's happening here? I'm having trouble drawing a line. So this one I would recommend you use, like, if you don't have a ruler, to try to use like student ID or something that can make a straight line. So I just try to draw a line as best as I can. That'll go through. And let's say this is our line of best fit, like somewhere here. And then they're asking here, based on your line of best fit, what is the best prediction of the average amount of money spent on groceries for a household that has 7 people? So then I go over to 7 and I go up to the line. And it's like around here at around 240, so choice F. So you really could just do your best to draw a line that goes through all the points. Like, don't say, all right, here's my line of best fit, and just go like something crazy like this, and you just miss everything. Okay, and then you're like 280, or like, all right, it's close to 300. Like, don't do something silly like that. You can just kind of freehand draw this one, and then that'll be fine. Otherwise, if you're anxious, what you can do is we turn the stats diagnostics on. Is I could take this graph, I could go to stats edit, and I could just type in these points one by one. But there's a lot of points here. I think there's, let's see, they said there was 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I could just start typing in. I would have 2, and that's going to be at 60. So I have 2, and then I have 60. Okay, and then next I have 2, and then 80. So you see, this would be time consuming. But if you're anxious, like, oh no, what if my line is terrible and I actually didn't draw it right? Then this method works. 3, and then this is 100. So halfway from 80 to 100 would be 90. So I'd have 390. So 3 and then 90. I promise there's a point to this. Okay, and then 3, 120. I'll put a 120 here. And a 3 here. All right, we are slowly getting there. Okay, the next is 4. This looks like 4 about, let's say like 140, like 130, maybe 135. So like 4 and then 135 maybe. Doesn't have to be super exact. And this is like 4, like 150, let's say. So 4 and then 150. Now I'm just committed to doing this. I kind of regret doing this, but it's for educational purposes. So you're all worth it. All right, 5, 160, and then 5, 180. So 5, 160. I hope this works. This would be embarrassing if it doesn't. Okay. So now I'm going to do stats, calculate linear regression. And we'll say the line is 33.75x plus 3.75. So 33.75x plus 3.75. Let me just check that those are the numbers. I hope so. Yep, it was. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the table, and I scroll down to 7, and notice it is exactly 240. Okay, so like that's pretty awesome. So that's up to you if you think that's, worth it. That's a decision you'll have to make. But honestly, just draw the line of best fit. That's your safest bet. All right, that was a lot of work. So which graph does not represent y as a function of x? So the best thing here is to use the vertical line test. So vertical line test. If the graph fails the vertical line test, it is not a function of x. And what does it mean for a graph to fail the vertical line test? If the vertical line you could draw in hits the graph in 2 locations or more, it's not a function of x. So this one right away is not a function of x. These are fine, the remaining ones, because if I draw a vertical line here, here, or anywhere on the graph, it's going to hit at most 1 location. Okay, this one here, we have another function here. It passes the vertical line test. It's not a continuous function, or it's not connected. All right, later on, if you take calculus, you'll learn what continuous means. But a simple way of saying if something is continuous is if you could draw it in one motion. But this, even though it's disconnected, it's still a function because my vertical lines just hit in one location. And then same thing here. So this one is fine. It passes the vertical line test. This one passes. This one passes. This one fails. Don't do something like this, though. Don't go like, hey, I drew a vertical line and it didn't hit twice. You have to try to strategically draw the vertical line so that it does hit twice. Okay, so that is why 11 is choice A. Solving an equation. Okay, I'll show you the cheat code first, and then I'll show you how to do it the math way. So the cheat code, if you have one of these calculators, you hit math, you go up to numeric solver, and the left side of the equation is equation 1. So I could press alpha y equals enter to pull up a blank fraction. I go x over 3. I go minus 3. And now I want to see when is this equal to x over 3. So I'll write alpha y equals enter. I have x over 3. And then I have plus 3. And now I just press enter and I press graph to press solve. And let's see what happened here. Did I make a typo? Oh, I was supposed to write x over 9. That's why. Yeah, well, teachable moment here. Why did it fail? Because I wrote the wrong thing in here under equation 2. And I basically created two lines that are parallel. And if you have parallel lines, they have the same slope. They never intersect. So they'll never have a common solution between them. So now let's try this again without the typo. And 27. Okay, so without doing any work, okay, just typing, we could get this answer. All right, this, I don't know, maybe it should be illegal, but choice J. Of course, though, I'm going to show you how to do the math here. So if you want to do this like the math way, using actual algebra, then what I like to show is find the least common multiple. The least common multiple of all of the denominators is 9. So here, I would multiply this entire equation by 9. And now watch what happens. If I do 9 times x over 3, I get 9x over 3 minus, and now I have 9 times negative 3 is minus 27, equals 9 times x over 9 is 9x over 9. And then 9 times 3 is 27. And from here, we simplify. 9x over 3, or 9, I could just do 9 divided by 3 is 3, and then the x carries. And then here, 9 over 9 just cancels. And I get x plus 27. So now I could go minus x on both sides, because I want all of the x terms on one side and the constants on the other. So we've got 2x minus 27 equals 27. And from here, solve for x, go plus 27 on both sides. And we've got 2x equals 54. Now we divide both sides by 2. And x is equal to 27. Okay, so either way, we are getting choice, what is that, I? Yeah, the lettering here kind of throws me. Oh, wait, what? E, F, G, H, I. Oh, J. I guess I looks like something else, so they go with J. Yeah, I have to like understand the reasoning behind how they do the letters here. Oh, at Airfun, Algebra 2, January 2024. I'll make that video. Yeah. Right now, I've been really focused, Airfun, on making grades 3 through 8 because their exams are like soon. But I do have my Algebra 2 Part 2 like in the queue. I am going to make that video. All right. I'll definitely make it like before like the June exams come rolling around. Right. So that will be made. Yeah. The Regents videos are, I mean, the practice test videos seem to be the biggest hit. So I'm just running in that direction. I just want to make the stuff that people, find the most helpful. That's like really the goal behind this channel, is trying to just make the math easier for you and trying to explain it as carefully as possible. All right. So going forward here, and let's see. So we have an 8th grade student estimated that they need $8,800 for tuition and fees for each year of college. And They already have 5,000. The table shows the projected future value of the account in 5 years based on different monthly deposits. Okay, so this one, the student wants to have enough money saved in 5 years to pay the tuition and fees for her first 2 years of college. Based on the table, what is the minimum amount she should deposit in the savings account every month? So the initial is the same. The monthly deposit is here, and this is how much the account is going to have in 5 years. So the tuition, this student is going to need $8,800 for tuition and fees for each year of college. So how much is the tuition for 2 years? That's 8,800 times 2. Okay, and this we could just calculate it, or I'll just multiply it out. 2 times 8 is 16, carry the 1. 2 times 8 is still 16, plus 1 is 17. So the student needs $17,600 to pay for the first 2 years of college. So what is the minimum amount she should deposit in the savings account each month? Well, to break $17,600, the least amount, we want to know what is the minimum amount she should deposit, is going to have to be $200. Okay, so $200 a month will do it. Okay, $100 is not enough. She'll fall short. And $300 will do it, but that's not the least amount here. Okay, we want the minimum amount that this student has to deposit. So 13 should be A. Okay, next one, lateral surface area. So this one, I imagine we have a scissor and we cut the cylinder open. It's going to form a rectangle. And, this one here, the formula could be on the reference page, but I want you to think about the concept. If I have a cylinder and the cylinder, I'll make this neat, has dimensions of radius r and the height is h going this way, then going here is h and going this way would be the circumference. If I were to cut the cylinder open and stretch it out, it would give us the circumference of the circle on the top and the bottom. And the circumference of a circle is 2 pi r. So, or I could say pi times diameter. So the lateral surface area, lateral just means the side. Okay, so that's if I were to open this up, that rectangle that I'm looking at, just think of like a can of soup. If you were to cut the label off and stretch it out, it would look like a rectangle. Or if this were a roll of toilet paper, okay, maybe not the best. I mean, it's a understandable analogy at the very least. And you were to start unraveling it, it would make rectangles. Okay, so whatever helps. So lateral surface area, I would do, here we have the diameter is 8.4. So the radius would be half of that, would be 4.2. So the lateral surface area is the area of this space here. So I'll just say the lateral surface area. So this would be the lateral. Is the area of this rectangle that we're looking at. And the area of a rectangle is length times width. So this would just be 2 pi r times h. And from here, I'd have 2 pi. The radius of this cylinder is 4.2 centimeters. And the height is 10.9 centimeters. Okay, and that's where centimeters times centimeters is square centimeters. That's where the units are coming from. And then the rest, I would just, obviously type in the calculator. So for the calculator work, I'm going to do 2 pi is second and the up arrow. And I'm multiplying that by 4.2. And then I'm multiplying that by 10.9. So we multiply it all and we get this number here. So let's see, this is going to round to 287.6. So 14 should be choice G. Okay, so this is the one. Cool. All right, moving on. All right, let's see. So 2 8th grade classes are selling raffle tickets to raise money. One class is selling tickets for $2.50 each and has already raised $350. The other class, $3 each, has already raised this much. Which equation can be used to find T, the number of tickets each class needs to sell, so that the total amount raised is the same for both classes? Okay. Well, this one, what I don't like about this question is they're not taking into account how many tickets the students already sold. But I guess like from the moment they're talking about this, but whatever, we'll just go with it. So the first class has already raised $350, and they are making $2.50, so 2.50 for each ticket they sell. So 2.50 times T will tell us how much they make for each additional ticket sale after they have already raised this much. And the second class is they already raised 225, and they're making $3 a ticket, so plus 3 times T. The rate here is the most important thing. Selling tickets for $2.50 each, selling tickets for $3 each. So T is attached to the rate. Okay, so this is the rate, and this is the rate. Let me just make that neater. Something's going on with this program that I'm using to write all this stuff out. So thank you for bearing with me. Okay, I just think of the formula y equals mx plus b. And the rate goes in front of the variable. And the b value, the y-intercept, is the fixed amount. So in this context, the fixed amount is the amount of money they already raised. So if I want to know which equation can be used to see the number of tickets each class needs to sell, so the total amount raised is the same, then I just set these two equal to each other, and I scan the answer choices, and this is going to match up with choice C. So 15 is choice C. Cool. All right. Also, anyone here taking the 8th grade exam for Texas, the STAAR exam, let me know in the chat if, like, which day you're taking it. How soon is this? Because I do try my best to schedule these live streams so that they're directly, coinciding with the test being right there. And if you're finding this helpful, please like, subscribe, and also you could share a link to this live stream with some of your classmates. My goal is to help and reach as many people as possible with these live streams. So, yeah, that would be great. All right. Mr. Wilkins deposited $2,500 in a new account at his bank. The bank pays 6.5% interest, compounded annually on this account. Mr. Wilkins makes no additional deposits. All right, so the formula we need here is this one. A equals P times 1 plus or minus, but in this case, we're going to go with plus because the bank is paying this guy interest on the money he deposits. So this is the formula we want to use. R is 6.5%. Percent means out of 100. So I'm going to say 6.5 out of 100. And when I divide by 100, the decimal moves 2 places to the left. So I would have 0.065. You could see if I were to move this decimal 1, 2 to the right, it'll give me 6.5. So if I go 1, 2, it puts the decimal here. And we want to know which amount is closest to the balance of the account at the end of 2 years. So we're saying here T is equal to 2. P, the principal, is the initial value invested. So that's the $2,500. And then you just plug into this formula. Okay, so that's $2,500 invested. And it's 1 plus the interest rate is 0.065. And I don't know why I wrote a 0. Too many zeros. To the power T, and this is going on for 2 years. So we could honestly just type this whole string right into the calculator. As is. We could just go 2,500 times 1 plus 0.065 to the power 2. Okay, that's it. And we get our answer. If you want to simplify it first, you could go 1.065 if you do 1 plus and then square it. Like, that's fine. You're going to get the same exact answer. So 2,835.56. I'll just drag that with us. So we've got 2,835.56 matches up with choice F. Okay, so this one here is choice F. All right, moving on. Oof. All right, something like this. This one, there's a nice way to do this. So 17, I want you to pay attention to the order of the letters. So with proportions, when they give you the letters, the theme here, the big idea, is pay attention to the order of the letters. Okay, so pay attention to the letter. Wait, let me just fix that. That's a little sloppy. Pay attention to, yeah, this is really just annoying me now. Okay, let's see. Let's try one more time. Pay attention to the order of the letters. And you'll see what I mean by that in a moment. So you can honestly answer this question without even looking at the shapes if you pay attention to the order of the letters. So AE, I'm thinking, oh, AE is first, last. And then XY is third, fourth. So right away, this one's not looking good. The order of the letters has to match in both shapes. So if I'm comparing AE, see, that's this side over here, to XY, the problem here is that these sides are not corresponding. AE should correspond to VZ. You see how AE shows up first, last? VZ shows up first, last. So we can't compare this side here with the non-corresponding side in the other shape. Okay, we would have to compare a corresponding side. So that's how I know A is just automatically out. They're not comparing corresponding sides. Okay, so now we move on to the next answer choice. AB is 1, 2. So AB over VW. So far it's 1, 2 over 1, 2. So this one is starting off nice. But watch what happens when we move on. CD is third, fourth letter. Would be something that should be over XY. But you see they're doing CD over VZ, which is first, last. So VZ, the problem is that it's just not where it needs to be. Okay, CD was over here. So VZ is the side over here. We should be comparing it to XY. All right, but it's not XY here. Okay, they used the wrong sides. All right, so that's why. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me start that sentence over. The letter theme still works, but I just kind of like mixed up the answer choices. Sorry about that. So AB is 1, 2. VW is 1, 2. YZ is, you see how they went from the first shape to the second shape, and now they went from the second shape back to the first shape. So YZ is the last two letters, and DE is the last two letters. But the problem is, this is, let's say this is shape 1 and shape 2. The problem is that they did shape 1, shape 2, but then they did shape 2, shape 1. When you set up ratios for proportions, you have to stay consistent. So B is out because if we flip that, then it would be true. Okay, but it's not. BC is, if I follow the letters, see BC is second, third. XY is third, fourth. So this one's out. And now you might be like, oh no, like I hope there's actually an answer to this, but watch, the last one's going to work. AB is 1, 2. VW is 1, 2. So far, this thing's looking good. CD is third, fourth. XY is third, fourth. So this one has to be it. But now let's look. AB is here over VW. So these sides are in corresponding locations. And then CD is the side here on the right. And this one here is the side on the right. So this one is checking out. So just follow the letters is the way. All right. Okay, this question 18, you have a calculator, it should be illegal. You ready? This is like kind of unfair. What I could do is I could go to mode, I could go to numbers, and there's got to be a scientific option. Is there? There is. Okay, normal, switch it to scientific. And then I'll show you the math way. And then write 0.00165. And how is this number written in scientific notation? It is written, whoops. Ready? Let me just get rid of all this extra stuff here. It is written like this, 1.65. Now, people are like, what does that E mean? This means 1.65. Exponent is times 10 to the negative 3. So that one, 18 is G. Okay? Without doing any real heavy math. If you want to do this the nice way, though, so 0.00165 is you count the spaces. You have to go 1, 2, 3. Scientific notation, you need to have a non-zero number, and then decimal, and then the trailing decimal. So I had to write this in some way 1.65. But think about how many decimal places did I go? 1, 2, 3. I did 3 spaces. I'm sorry, how many spaces did I move the decimal to the right to make 1.65? I went 3 spaces. So then to undo that, if I went 3 spaces to the right, I'd have to multiply by 10 to the negative 3 to send the decimal 3 spaces back to the left. Okay, well, your left is probably this way. All right, so that's the idea. The other way to make sure that you're not doing times 10 to the positive 3 is when you multiply 1.65 by 10 to some power, to make it smaller, you have to multiply by 10 to a negative power, because this means divide by 10 3 times. And that would give you this. All right. I mean, you could just process of elimination. If you just know scientific notation, that none of the remaining answer choices would count as scientific because the decimal has to be after the first non-zero digit. Okay, so the decimal here would have to be 1.65, and none of those remaining answer choices fit the bill. All right, so moving on here, let's take a look. And just getting myself, oh, I do have water. Let me take a short water break. So I hope everyone is doing okay here. And I, once again, thank you for stopping by and supporting the live stream. So yeah, good luck to everybody. I know this is crunch time, test season. So hope everyone's test prep is going well. All right, which function best represents the relationship shown on the graph? We have the cost of some pecans and the weight of the pecans in pounds. So we just have to come up with a formula for this. So we could use the calculator again to just come up with something. Or we could just see here that this is a direct proportion. This is y equals kx. And if we pick something other than 0, 0, like let's say this point here, 2, 10, we could solve for the constant k. This is the constant of proportionality. So I have my x and y, and I could just plug in. I have y equals 10 equals k times x equals 2. And now I could just divide both sides by 2 because I'm doing times 2 on the right. The opposite of doing times 2 would be to divide by 2. And that'll get k by itself. K is equal to 5. And now I just plug into the formula here for a direct proportion, and I'm going to get y equals 5x. Okay, so choice A is it. Not too bad. All right. So 19A, move on. All right, we have this pentagon here, and it's being dilated with the origin as the center of dilation using this rule. And we want to know which statement is true. Well, one thing that stands out to me is that the dilation centered at the origin with scale factor k, the origin is here at 0, 0. So our scale factor, if x and y are being multiplied by a fourth, that means this is being scaled by 1/4. And if your scale factor is between 0 and 1, that will make the shape smaller. Okay, so this will make the shape smaller. It's going to make it come closer to the origin. All right, I could actually scale all of these points, but honestly, that's not going to be needed. It's more the concept. So the new pentagon, the one with the primes attached, m prime, n prime, p prime, q prime, r prime, is going to be smaller, not larger. It would be larger if it was like, let's say 4x, 4y. If you multiply by a scale factor greater than 1, then it's going to make the shape bigger. But it's going to be smaller because the scale factor is less than 1. I don't like this answer choice, though. I prefer they say between 0 and 1, because if I had a scale factor of like, let's say -5, that would make the shape greater, like bigger, but it would just open up in an opposite direction. So I feel like that was a sloppy question. Could have been written better. Not to insult the writers of the test, but a little sloppy. Okay, let's see. Clarissa needs $2,500, a loan of $2,500 in order to buy a car. Which loan option would allow her to pay the least amount of money in interest? All right, so the key phrase here is it's annual simple interest rate, not compounding. It's simple interest. which means you calculate the interest up front and you charge that same amount per year. So here, 4.75% interest spread out over 18 months. Annual means per year. Okay, so one thing I might do is just take 18 months and convert it to years. So I just do times 1 year for every 12 months. Just know you could also just, divide them by 12. So this would be a year and a half. Okay, so this would be 1.5 years. Okay, this one, 30 months is, if you do 30 over 12, you could use a calculator for this. It's going to give you 2.5. Okay, so this is 2.5 years. 24 months is exactly 2 years. Just do divide by 12, and this is exactly 3 years. So that's what I want to keep in mind when I use the calculator for this part. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 2,500. So we have 2,500. And we're going to apply the 4.75% interest rate. So I could just do 4.75 over 100 and then multiply that by the loan amount. And that's going to tell us, oh, hang on, let's go to mode and get out of scientific. See, if you're going to use the calculator in like clever ways, you just have to know how to also get out of it. But so this is how much interest Clarissa would pay per year. So for 1.5 years, I just do times 1.5, like the duration of the loan. It's 1.5 years. So that's how much money Clarissa would pay in interest. Now, next, we could look at the 4% loan for 2.5 years. So it's still relative to the 2,500. So 2,500 and 4% is the same thing as 4 out of 100, or I could say times 0.04. And this time it's a 2.5 year loan. So I'm going to take this interest and go times 2.5 because this is $100 per year. So times 2.5 gives us this amount. Okay. And then I'm going to use that idea for the remaining ones. We have 2,500 and we're taking 4.25%. That's 0.0425. But now I'll just multiply it all at once. For 2 years, I'm going to go times 2. Because this is how much for 1 year, so times 2 for the 2 years is going to give us this amount. And then finally, for the last one, 3 years at this interest rate. So 2,500 times 0.045 for 3 years gives us this amount. Okay, so in the beginning here, this said 178,125. Right, so there are the values that we actually get here. And now for this, we just have to see which one is the least. Okay, so for choice A, we had 178.125. Okay, if we once again go back, just because that was a long time ago before we called it a day here. So yeah, we had the 2,500. 4.75% was this, but then times 1.5 gave us this amount, right? So these values here are definitely accurate. So for A, that would be this much money, and I'll round to the nearest cent. And then it was the $100, but for 2.5 years was $250. And then this one would be $212.50. And this one would be $337.50. Oh, at Alexis, I'm happy to help. And Max, I appreciate you calling me the GOAT. I do feel I have a lot more to do before I earn that title, but I appreciate it. It does mean a lot, like knowing that these videos are appreciated, and helping people. My goal is just like, honestly, it's becoming a teacher. I still enjoy being a teacher. I've been teaching now. This is my 11th school year. I consider it a privilege to be able to not just teach people in person, but to have such a big audience on YouTube is like really just awesome. The live streams for Texas, I'll see how everything's going to look in the future, but I didn't make as many videos for Texas as I could have, but I do eventually want to build up my, bank here of instructionals for the Texas exams also. And then eventually I'll try to just make stuff that's like universal for every state. But I did get a decent following just being from New York and making videos that are sort of centered around New York. So I was like, let me just try another state and see how it goes. Yeah, I do have family in Texas out there. So I don't know. I guess I have a connection to the state. So thank you. And if you have any classmates that are interested in, studying for their STAAR exam and you want to tell them to come on by, the more the merrier. I want to get as many people here as possible. But I'm happy with the amount of people we've had so far, Oh, my help with the calc test helped. Oh, I'm happy to help. Yeah, I appreciate that. You mentioning. I made a bunch of practice test videos. I try to make something a little bit different than what I was usually making to make it more helpful. Something that like teachers could actually use in the classroom also, because teachers would be like, oh, hey, I could just print that out and make that my review. So happy to help. Yeah, I'll send hearts to everybody. Okay. Awesome. So we have point J and K. Oh, JK, look at that. I wonder if that was done on purpose. So here, which measurement is closest to the distance? Blah, blah, blah. All right, so here, so I'm just thinking out loud. -4, -6. I plot these points. So here's point J, and point K is at 4, 4. Okay, so to find the distance between them, this is a Pythagorean theorem concept. So if you want to get the distance between 2 points, what you could do is you could go rise over run. You could go up, and then you could go over. Okay, so this is what we could do. And looking at this, if I count the rise over the run, I'm going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, one way to be really convinced that I'm going up 10 is I'm going from -6 to 4. So I have to go up 6, up 4, and that's going up 10. And then I have to go from -4 to +4, which would be 4 to the right. Another 4 to the right would be a run of 8. Okay, so that would be this. So then from here, I'm looking for the distance here, the distance between these 2 points. I could call the distance D, and I could say 10 squared plus 8 squared is equal to D squared. And then just take the square root of both sides to solve for D. So the distance equals the square root of 100 plus 64. That's 10 squared is 100. 8 squared is 64. So that's square root of 164. And if I look here, if you know your perfect squares, the square root of 144 is 12. And the square root of 169 is 13. This is really close to square root of 164. So this one here is like basically 13. We round. Okay, so that's why it's this one. So I know it's not the others. All right, so that is, yeah, that question. 22 should be choice H. And let's see, can I create a video on the 2015? Let's see. Oh, FRQs. Yeah, that could be fun. You know what? I always give a shout out to, what's his name? Turks Vids. I try to, even though I've never met or spoken to Turks Vids, I like to mention other YouTubers, because in the past, like when I was looking up resources for my students, I was like, oh, hey, this person has like every FRQ ever made. But then a student told me, I was like, oh, hey, there's this guy. And they were like, yeah, but you know what? We're just curious how you would explain it. Not to take anything away from anyone else. It's just like, sure, like if there's a request for it, like that could be something fun to do. So you get my take and my approach on FRQs, because they are a little tricky, the FRQs. They're worth a lot. I mean, it's half your test on those 6 questions. Okay, a rectangle's perimeter and its area have the same numerical value. So right away, I'm just thinking rectangle and the length and width is going to be something useful. The width is 3 units. So I'm going to redraw this, and the width is 3 units. We want to know what is the length of the rectangle in units. So here, just know a rectangle, the opposite sides are equal in measure. So if this is 3, this is 3. If this is L, this is L. So they told us the perimeter and area have the same numerical value. So the area, you should just know the formula for the area of a rectangle is length times width. And since in a rectangle, the opposite sides are equal in measure, we could say the perimeter is I could just do L plus W plus W, or I could say 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. So here, I'm going to use that idea for this one. The area and the perimeter, they're saying have the same numerical value. Okay, same numerical value. So the area, I'm going to do the length times the width. I'm doing L times 3, or I'm going to get 3L. Okay, so 3 times L. And then here, when I want to find the perimeter, I'm doing 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. And now from here, we have 3L equals 2L plus 6. And now I can just subtract 2 times L on both sides. And just think of this as like the variable x. 3x minus 2x is 1x. Or in this case, since I used L, I could say 3L minus 2L is 1L equals, there's only 6 left over. That is our length. Okay? So that's how that question closes out. Okay, the length is 6. Moving on. All right, so we're more than halfway, so we're making progress here. Yeah, these streams are fun, but they do take a little bit of time. We are more than an hour in also. All right. So we have a cone, and we want to know which measurement is closest to the volume. Volume of a cone is 1/3 the volume of a cylinder. So it's 1/3 pi r squared times h. Now here, they gave us the diameter yet again. They really want us to fall for that trap, okay? So 5 5/8, the radius would be this, but then divided by 2. Okay, so I'm plugging this in, and we're told the height is 7.5 or 7.5. So this is just all calculator. All right, I'm just going to type into the formula as carefully as I can. So let's see, I'll just clear this out. Oh, second mode will quit, and then clear will wipe it all out. So this is the annoying one to type in, 5 5/8. Just know that 5 5/8, let's see if this works. Alpha y equals enter. That didn't work. Let's see, 5. Is there a way to, let me see if I hit the right arrow. I'm just curious if this trick will work. Oh wait, maybe if I do this, alpha y equals enter. I write my 5/8. And then maybe if I go to the left. Ooh, all right. So a new trick, 5 5/8. Does that work? Oh wait, decimals. Decimals are nice. No more fraction. So answers, put them in decimal form. I'm just curious if this works. It does work. All right, so we can write mixed numbers on the main screen. Just write the fraction first, then the number to the left. Or just know 5 5/8 is the same thing as 5 plus 5/8. This is like realistically easier to do, but that just looks cooler. So, all right, that's the diameter, so the radius is half of that. So there's R, 2.8125. So the formula we're going to use is volume equals 1/3. We have 1/3, I'll just write in parentheses, times pi, times R. I'm going to open a parenthesis, put the radius in, and close it, and then press the square button. And then we're multiplying by the height, which was 7.5, which is 7.5. Okay, so just learning how to type is like really important here. And then this is our answer, 62.126, which rounds to 62.13. All right, so choice J is our solution for 24. All right. So let's see. Moving on now to which set of ordered pairs represents y as a function of x. So before we talked about the vertical line test. Okay, so the vertical line test. But when we have a set of points like this, we're going to look for the repeating x value test. Okay, so repeating x values, this means not a function of x. Not a function of x. And I'll explain why it's not a function of x also. So here, like you see, like, oh, 2 shows up twice. And that's because if I were to draw this out, 2, 5, I'll say is over here. 2, 1 is down here. And I can go ahead and plot the other points, like 3, 1, and then 4, 7 is like, let's say, up here. But let me make that a little neater. All right, I guess good enough. But notice that these 2 points here, if I draw a vertical line, the vertical line is going to hit both of those points. See, so this fails the vertical line test. So the repeating x value test is really the same thing as the vertical line test in some way. It's just like a numerical way of doing it. Okay, so this one, the x values repeat, so not a function. 3, 4, 5, 2. The x values do not repeat, so that's our answer. But let's see why the other one's no good. There's the 1 repeating twice, so that's bad. This one is like really not a function because the 4 repeats every time. So this one's like super bad. So choice B is definitely our solution here. So moving on. Oh, question 26 is a nice one. When 3 squares are joined at their vertices to form a right triangle, the combined area of the 2 smaller squares is the same as the area of the large square. Which 3 squares do not support this statement? So this is really, honestly, like the way to represent the Pythagorean theorem visually. Okay, the Pythagorean theorem. Okay, this is a cool way to see it. So this one, if we just run it through, 3 squared plus 4 squared. Let's just see. 3 squared plus 4 squared is 9 plus 16. And that's equal to 25 square centimeters. So this one works. We want the one that doesn't work. Let's see here. 5, 12, 13. If we find 5 squared is 25. 12 times 12 is 144. 13 times 13 is 169. And if I do 144 plus 25, I do get 169. So G works, so it's out. We want the one that does not work. This one is looking like it. 9 times 9 is 81. And if I do the sum of these, let's see, I get 225. All right, and the reason being, like, the side lengths here would be 12 centimeters. If I had 12 times 12, I'd get 144. And it should be 9, 12. The square root of 225 is 15. So if this was 15 instead of 21, then it would work. Okay, but it's not. So this is the one that doesn't work, and that's the one we want, the one that didn't work. Here, this would be a side length of 8. This would be a side length of 10. 6, 8, 10 does work. 6 times 6 is 36. 36 plus 64 is 100. Okay, so H is the one that does not work, and that's why it is our answer. All right, moving on here. We have a circle graphed on the coordinate grid, and it's reflected over the y-axis. If the center is at xy, which ordered pair represents the center of the new circle after the transformation? So for this one, if you forget the rule, pick something easy. Pick something like, let's say 2, 3. All right, pretend the center is like here. And I didn't draw this to scale, but whatever. If I reflect over the y-axis, that means I go the same distance to the y-axis, like this is my mirror line, that I go the same distance to the y-axis through the y-axis. And that would put me at negative 2, 3. So the transformation would send the point 2, 3 to the point negative 2, 3. And then ask yourself what changed. The x-coordinate changed. Common mistake here is people hear y-axis and they try to change the y. But no, when you reflect over the y-axis, the x-coordinate changes signs. So the point xy, like if you think of this as x and this as y, the x would change signs, so it would become minus x comma y. Okay, so we're looking for minus x comma y, which matches up with choice C. All right, that's our answer. Cool. Alrighty. Let's see. Lenore pays a total of $16.50 for every 6 shirts she has dry cleaned. Which graph models a relationship with the same unit rate? So we're talking here $16.50 for every 6 shirts. So here, if we simplify, I'm going to use a calculator because we have one. So like, why not use it? So if it's $16.50 for 6 shirts, $16.50 divided by 6 will tell us how much for 1 shirt. That's $2.75 for a single shirt. Okay, that is the rate here. We'll get rid of this. Now, if you want to, say more, this technically counts as your slope. So $16.50 over 6 is 2.75 would tell us our slope. Okay, like we're basically here just finding the slope between 0, 0 and the point 6, 1650. So from here, if I just look at the answer choices though, if we think about what we just found, if it's $16.50 for 6 shirts, what we just found is that this is $2.75 for 1 shirt. Okay, this is basically like us reducing this fraction. So now I can just look at the graph here and see, all right, at x equals 1, you see this is saying, oh, 1 shirt, $10. Nope, it's $2.75 a shirt. So you're out. And I can just eliminate the others. This one is like, all right, 1 shirt, $22.50. See, that's where it lands on the y-axis. So nope, too high. This one, $1. I'm sorry, 1 shirt is going to cost you like, let's say $16. Nope. So just by that alone, it has to be F. And you can see at 1, we're at about 275. Okay. If we want to keep going out more and more, we can to compare. But this one here, once again, if we analyze the unit rate, that basically gives the answer away right away. Okay. So cool. All right. This one, if you want to use a calculator for this one, you can. I'll also show how to do it without a calculator. But I'm looking at 1/8. So actually, let me clear all this other stuff out. So 1/8. And 18% is 18 out of 100. And it's going to give us this. And we want to know which value of x is between these two numbers. So we could also just do like a speed run here, typing in everything. So I could type in, we have 1/5, which is 0.2. We have 1.6 is already simplified here, but I'll just do it anyway. So like it's all lined up. 0.09 is also written out for us. And this one, you would probably need a calculator for. Square root of this. Okay. So here are the values that we are comparing it to. So this is cool because it's just a matter of like you developing your number sense. All right. So this is like, yeah, full number sense, this question. So let us see. So here we have 1/8 was 0.125. This one we could write as 0.18. And we want to know which of these numbers, like this one, this one, this one, or this one, is between these two. And it's looking like choice D. 0.09, you see, is like less than this. 0.09, like if we draw out a number line here, 0.125 and 0.18, you can see that 0.09 is to the left. Okay, because the 0 is less than the 1 here in the 10ths place. So that's why it's outside this range here. It's got to be this one. All right, you see 0.1414. So that would be, let's say, somewhere over here, like 0.14142, blah, blah, blah. This number here, this irrational number is going to fall somewhere in this space over here. So this is the one. 1/5, 0.20 is to the right. Okay, 0.20 is outside. We want to be between these two numbers. Okay, so this means, this is a fancy way of saying x is between. Okay, between this number and this number. So that's why this one's out. 1.6 is like way too far. And then 0.09 was less. All right, so definitely choice D. Cool. All right, next up. All right, let's see. We have similar triangles. So triangle MNP and triangle JKL are similar right triangles. This means that their corresponding sides are in proportion. Okay, so corresponding sides are in proportion. And also what that tells us is that the slope of these points here is also not going to change. Like notice here that M and P are on the same line as J and L. So you see, I could find the slope between points J and L and the slope between points M and P, and those should be equal because notice that the hypotenuse of both of these right triangles lie on the same line, okay? That they are rising and running at the same rate. That's where the proportion comes in here, that like this rise and this run is equal to this rise and this run. But they're basically just using the slope formula twice. That's what it seems like is going on in this question. So here's your slope formula. And you don't actually have to simplify anything, but this is the idea you want to use. So if I actually write out the coordinates here, P is located at -1, -4. Okay, M is located at -10, 8. And then we have J is located, this one is located at -8, 4. And then L is located at -4, 0. So first I'll find the slope. I'll say the slope of line segment JL. And this, if you don't know this notation yet, you are going to use this at some point when you take geometry. So this means the slope of line segment JL. And if I use the points here and I use this formula, I'm going to do for this one. So let's just see here. So we are starting off here. Let's say this one here is my x1, y1. And this one here is my x2, y2. So I'm going to do 0, -4. Okay, so we have 0 and we have -4. That's the difference of my y values. Divided by x2 minus x1, I have -4 minus -8. Okay, and then the slope of MP, so the slope of M, that was not my best capital M, P is equal to, and now I'll pretend this is my x1, y1, and this is my x2, y2. So I find the slope between these points. I have -4 minus 8. And then I'm doing x2 minus x1. I have -1 minus -10. And I scan through the answer choices. Let's see. These should be equal, by the way. So these should be equal. So 0 minus 4 over -4 minus, oh, let's see. Oh, did I count slightly? All right, let's see. I need reading glasses. I should zoom in more. This, I just have to make one little adjustment, was 7. Okay, yeah, you see this fell on -7. So sorry. What I should have done like is zoom in more. That helps. Okay, so if that's -7, then that's going to change just one piece here. This will change to like this. Okay, I would know once the slopes didn't match. I'd be like, whoops. Let me go just adjust that. But let's see. 0 minus 4 over -4 minus -7. And then -4 minus 8 over -1 minus -10. So choice G. That's our answer. This is more of like an eye exam, that question. Very tedious. Strange question, but very conceptual. That's like a deep question, like concept-wise. All right. Paula completely covered a square wall using this much square feet of wallpaper without any overlap. Which measurement is closest to the side length of the wall in feet? So the wall is a square, which means that the side lengths are all equal in measure. The area of a square is equal to length times width, but if the length and width are the same, I could just say x squared, where x is the length of each side of the square. So I'm going to set the area here, 87.5 square feet. Like this is our value for A, and this is equal to x squared. And now we just take the square root of both sides. And I'm only writing the units here so we can see we take the square root of x squared. In area questions, the square root of x squared is just x. We're talking about positive stuff. And now I take the square root of this number. The square root of feet to the second power is feet to the first power. Okay, so that's where the solution being in terms of feet is coming from. And now I just got to do the square root of 87.5. But honestly, if I just common sense this one, let's just see. Once again, the perfect squares. The square, I don't know what just happened. The square root of 49 is equal to 7. The square root of 64 is equal to 8. The square root of 81 is equal to 9. And the square root of 100 is equal to 10. So even without a calculator, I just see, okay, 87.5 is closer to 9 than it, like you see, like square root of 87.5 is closer to the square root of 81 than it is to the square root of 100. So 9 is our best answer here. But if I had to, I could just type that in a calculator. So I could go here and say square root of 87.5. You see I get 9.35. So that would round down to 9 feet. Okay, this is like pretty significant rounding, but we'll say, yeah, roughly 9 feet. Choice C. All right, we're making gains here. There are 42 questions total, so we are closing in. And once again, to anybody who stopped by, just thank you so much. Looks like we broke 50 people for this, and that's just really awesome. Like the biggest class size that we're allowed in New York is 34, so knowing we went over the class size is just cool to think, people stopped by for a little bit. So thank you, and I hope you're getting something out of this if you're watching the replay or if you're watching right now. Yeah. Cool. So more lines of best fit. All right. 12 people. This time I'm not plotting it, so not happening. So based on the scatter plot, what is the best prediction of the resting heart rate in beats per minute of a person who exercises 8 hours a day? So here, yeah, once again, just do your best to draw a line going straight through all this. Okay, so let me see. I would recommend using like a student ID or a ruler. So that's like decent enough. Maybe if I tighten this up just a little bit, maybe like, I don't know, like this one is like, and then raise this one up. I don't know. That was like, okay, it's like decent enough. Hopefully that'll do the trick. So 8 hours, if they exercise an average of 8 hours each week, you see that puts them at about 50. All right, so let's just hope here. 32, choice G. It is choice G. So just draw as carefully as possible. Use a student ID or a ruler for these, line of best fit questions. All right, more Pythagorean theorem just by looking at it. That's my reflex. Right triangle, we know two sides, and we want to find the third side. The trap here, though, is that if this is A, this is B, the hypotenuse we could call C. The hypotenuse, though, is always across from the right angle. So we have A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. What they're hoping people will do is do 12 squared plus 39 squared equals C squared. But no, here we're going to do 12 squared plus, let's say, yeah, B is X. So I'll say X squared is equal to 39 squared. And then we're going to solve for X. All right, so for this one here, I'll just, once again, pull up the calculator. We need to know what is 12 squared and what is 39 squared. And I'm going to do 1521 minus 144. And then eventually do the square root of that. Okay, so square root of this number. This is all the stuff we need to, I'll show the work, and close it all out and stuff. So let's just see here. All right, this will tell us our answer here. So it should be 37.1, but I'm just going to write out the steps just in case people are like, what on earth did you just do in the calculator? All right, it's just I don't want to switch back and forth from the calculator 40 times. I'd rather just get it all done at once. So this works out to 144. 12 squared. And then we have plus x squared equals 39 squared was 1521. And then I go minus 144. So that's what I did here. I subtracted. If this were elementary school, I would do minus 144 and actually do the place value. I mean, why not review that old stuff? 1 minus 4 I can't do, so I borrow. I make this an 11. 11 minus 4 is 7. I borrow from the 5 to make a 4. 11 minus 4 is 7. 4 minus 1 is 3. And that's where 1377 comes from. And then to get rid of the square next to the x, I do the square root of both sides. And that's where I did second x squared in the calculator to find the square root of 1377. And this to the nearest tenths place is 37.1. Okay, notice that the 1 here to the right is a 0. So we're rounding down to 37.1. 33 is choice A. All right. The number of gift baskets Nikki can make varies directly. So this is like the third time we're using this formula. Y equals kx. Okay. Anytime you hear varies directly or direct variation, you're using y equals kx. So the number of gift baskets Nikki can make varies directly with the amount of time she spends making the baskets. She can make 4 baskets in half an hour. How many baskets can Nikki make in 5 hours? Okay, let's just say the number of baskets that she can make, we're going to call the number of gift baskets, we'll call that y. And the time is x. So here, number of baskets, y, how much time, x. So here, I'm just going to say 4 equals k times x is, in this case, 1/2. So for the first case, this is what we get. Now from here, to get rid of times 1/2, there's a few ways we could do this. We could divide both sides by 1/2 like this. Or to get 1/2 to cancel out, we could also multiply by 2. So either one works, but maybe you'd prefer to multiply both sides by 2. So then here, 1/2 of 2 is 1. So 1/2 and 2 basically just cancel out. I get k times 1 is k, equals 2 times 4 is 8. And now from here, I could set up an equation. I have y varies directly with x, but the constant of proportionality is 8. So I get y equals 8x. So then how many baskets can Nikki make in 5 hours? So I say x is equal to 5. Remember, time was x. So y equals 8 times 5. And this is going to give us y is equal to 40. So Nikki can make 40 baskets in 5 hours. Awesome. All right. Next up, Mr. Flores opened an account with $5,000. All right, deposited $5,000. Deposit means put the money in the account. The account earns annual simple interest. That means all the interest calculated by the value up front. He did not make any additional deposits or withdrawals, so this is just like a one and done deal. At the end of 4 years, the balance of the account was $6,500. What is the annual interest rate of this account? Okay, so what we'll have here is I'll write it like this, like time 0. Actually, let me make it a little shorter. So initial value here, 5,000. And then 1 year goes by, 2 years goes by, 3 years, 4 years. So after 1 year, the simple interest, let's say, is x. So 5,000 plus x. But then more simple interest. So that basically means the interest is calculated up front. And this guy, Mr. Flores, is going to get X dollars of interest added to his deposit per year. So plus X. So then after the second year, gets 2X. After the third year, Mr. Flores gets 3 times whatever the simple interest is per year. And then after the fourth year, Mr. Flores gets 4X times the simple interest. But whatever this simple interest is, so the simple interest, okay, so this is the simple interest over 4 years. I was going to say 4 years, but that sounds silly. 4 years. Simple interest over 4 years. What they told us is that at the end of 4 years, this is the account balance. So it's like saying here 5,000 plus 4 times whatever the simple interest is per year is equal to, we have 6,500. Okay. Now, if you just know how to do this intuitively, like this just makes sense, then great. Like you might just know to go, oh, all right, let me do 6,500 minus 5,000 to see how much money Mr. Flores made in 4 years. So in 4 years, Mr. Flores made $1,500. That's pretty decent. Divide by 4 to see how much simple interest that Mr. Flores is getting per year. And if we do 1,500 divided by 4, so this one, I mean, at some point, we're just going to use a calculator anyway, so might as well just use it now. 1,500 divided by 4 is 375. So this tells us that Mr. Flores is making $375 in simple interest per year. Okay, so you can even see, if you just did 5,000 plus 375 plus 375 plus 375 plus again, you get this. So this is the simple interest. Okay. Let me just make that neater. So simple interest per year. But we want to know the rate. So this is calculated by the original amount. So we're going to look at here, the concept we're going to use is part over whole. So for this one, you really got to know your percents. Okay, so the part, Mr. Flores, the simple interest, I don't know what just happened there. Okay, let's try that again. So the simple interest, he's making $375 per year but that's the part of the whole deposit that he originally made, 5,000. Okay, so what percent of 5,000 is 375? That's what we have to look for. So 375 divided by 5,000 is 0.075. As a decimal, though, so when we want to turn this into a percent, just multiply by 100. And this will give us everything that we need. Okay, so here, now let's see the results. I guess I could just leave this down here. That this gives us a decimal value of 0.075. But then as a percent, we have 0.075 times 100. And this will express our decimal as a percent. And this gives us 7.5%. That is a really nice interest rate. That's really high. So choice B is the one. Cool. 35 is, yep, just double checking that it's B. All right, more dilations. Center of dilation is the origin. Okay, so cool. So we have FGHJ being dilated, center of dilation at the origin to create the image F prime, G prime, H prime, J prime. Notice that the trapezoid, it looks like a trapezoid is getting bigger. So I'm just thinking about that. So that's like one of my first observations is like the new one. Okay, if we have like FGHJ, like this trapezoid, when it becomes this one, so it becomes this, the trapezoid, they called it a quadrilateral, but yeah, it's a trapezoid. It's a special kind of quadrilateral. Right? The trapezoid gets bigger. It grows. All right, now the dilation, we should also know, when you're dilating at the center, scale factor of K, that your image is the point XY becomes KX comma KY. All right, so we're multiplying. But since it's getting bigger, the trapezoid, that means K has to be greater than 1. If K is between 0 and 1, then the shape gets smaller. Okay, like if our scale factor was a half, the shape would get smaller. So now I just look at the answer choices. G and J are out because these are translations, like going to the right one, going up 2, going to the left 2, up 1. So those are translations. That's just sliding the shape. So that's not a dilation. So it's between F and H, but remember, if K is greater than 1, then that means the shape will grow. So it's got to be this one, because you see here K is equal to 1.4, and that number is greater than 1. Here, 5/7 is between 0 and 1. So that would make the shape smaller, not bigger. So that's why this one here is choice H. Okay, 36 is choice H. All right, moving on. We're making great progress. So this one here is y equals mx plus b, word problems. So in the context of word problems, m is the rate. So on a graph, m is the slope, but in word problems, m is the rate of change. I mean, technically on a graph of a line, the slope is the rate of change, but I just look for that idea in the word problem. And b is the fixed amount or initial amount. So here, Melissa is saving $25 that she earned for washing her mom's car. She earns $10 every week for doing chores. Okay, so $10 every week for doing chores, like this is the rate. So that's what's jumping out right away. Which function can be used to find t, the amount of money? See, this is silly because t is usually time, but they're making t represent money, and they're making time represented by n, but whatever. That's just what they want to go with. Okay, so here, what I'm thinking about as I read this question, in the context of y equals mx plus b, is I'm thinking that the rate here is the $10 that she earns every week for doing chores. And the fixed amount is the $25 that she already earned for washing her mom's car. Like they were a bit vague about what her chores are, but they're basically saying $10 for each week she does chores. $25 she just, I guess, was a one-time deal, like, hey, wash my car for $25. So here, what I'm looking at, the total amount of money, like this, the y represents the total. Okay, and x is, and these type of questions like the time component. So here I have the rate is 10 times the time component is n plus the fixed amount is 25. And this is like our y equals, but here we're saying t equals, which function can be used to find t, the amount of money. Okay, so $10 times the number of weeks that goes by plus the $25 that Melissa already has saved. And this is going to match up with choice A. Okay. All right. So moving on. 39. We're almost there. We have 5 more questions, including this one. So we have a rectangular prism. Here are the dimensions, and we want to know the total surface area of this prism in square inches. So you can just use a formula for surface area of a rectangular prism. Let's think of this as the length, the width, I'll make that neater, and the height. Okay, so the formula, which I forget this formula all the time, is surface area equals, and don't make the mistake of finding the volume. The volume is length times width times height. Okay, it's different than surface area. Surface area is like covering the outside of the shape. Volume is the space on the inside. So the surface area, I could say, is 2 times length width plus 2 times. So you see here I left out h. So now I'll leave out, like, let's say w. So this is plus 2 times LH. And then plus I'll leave out L and I'll say 2 times WH. Okay, but if you forget this formula can be a little annoying to remember. If it's not on your reference page, I like to just break this down. Just pretend like you're looking at like some box. Okay, so we have L, W, and H. So if I look at LW, LW highlights the bottom. See, length times width is the area of the bottom face. But length width would also go here across the top. So I think of this piece as finding the area of the top and the bottom, which I'll just abbreviate with top and BOT. LH, so if you look at LH, H shows up here, here, and here. So L times H would give you, I could put the length here, I could put the length here, but L times H would give you the area of the front and the back. Okay, so this is the front and the back of the rectangular prism. And now WH would be over here. I could put a W, I could put a W here, would be the left and the right face. Okay, so the left and the right face. Okay, so there's 6 sides to a rectangular prism, and we're finding the area of all 6. Okay, but symmetric, the area of the top, bottom, front, back, left, right are all the same. So now we just plug in very carefully. We have 2 times, so let me make that neater. 2 times the length is 7.5. I'll leave the units out till the end. 2 times the length times the width is 5. Plus 2 times the length is 7.5. Times the height is 6.5. And then we have plus 2 times the width is 5 and the height is 6.5. Okay, so just plugging in very, very carefully. And you get a graphing calculator for the test. So a TI-84 plus CE like this, you could just type it all in one shot. I use parentheses for multiply. You could hit times or you could use parentheses. Whichever one you could do faster. So plus 2 times 7.5 times 6.5. Notice I'm just writing this entire string all at once. Okay, so 2 times 5. We'll pretend we don't know 2 times 5 is 10. Okay, you do get a calculator for so for situations like this, just use it. And we get 237.5. Okay, so surface area is 237.5. The units are square inches, but this one here, you're recording your answer and filling in bubbles, so you're not going to write the units with it. Okay, but this would be our surface area in square inches. All right, moving on. Question 39. So we have, in this test, they really like slope. This looks like slope. Okay. Emily sells greeting cards. The graph models here's the $1 million phrase right here, linear relationship between the number of boxes of cards she sells and her profit. Which of these best describes the profit Emily makes from selling these cards? So we have profit over boxes. When I think of slope, I think of rise over run. Okay, and the rise is your change in y, and your run is your change in x. That little triangle delta means change. So change in y over change in x. And we're starting from 0, 0. So really what I could do here is just find the slope between 0, 0 and a well-defined point like this one. So this one, the x is 4, the y is 30. So here I can find the slope m is the change in y. I'm going up 30. And I'm running over 4. See, I'm going up 10, 20, 30. I'm going up 10, 20, 30, and I'm running 1, 2, 3, 4. Just be careful because the x and y axis are not scaled the same. The y-axis scale is counting by tens, and the x-axis is scaled by ones, counting by ones. So then here I just divide, and yeah, this marker and tablet have seen better days. So this simplifies to 7.5. So if you think about the units, the y-axis was profit in dollars. So $30 profit. For every 4, the units here are boxes. You see profit dollars, and then boxes go on bottom. So the unit rate would be $7.50 per box. So that's choice A. All right, that's the key to these questions. It's just think about the y and x axis, how they're labeled, and that help you stay accurate. All right, more scatter plots. All right. So the daily attendance at a bowling alley was recorded for 15 days. The scatter plot shows the number of lanes rented each day and the number of people who bowled that day. Which statement is best supported by the scatter plot? So here, draw a line of best fit. So I'd probably start from this direction here and see where it lands. So it looks like this one here is not going to hit the origin. See that it's missing the origin? If I were to continue our y-axis like this, it would miss the origin. So here, that means we are going to have, all right, the reason why I consider this is because earlier in the test, they mentioned like, I forgot how they phrased it. It was like linear, but like not proportional. So that seemed to be like an issue here. But here it's actually not going to be a problem. This is a linear association. So nonlinear is out because if you connect these points, you can have a line of best fit. These are scattered in such a way that they're tending towards a straight line, towards a linear relationship. So no apparent association is out. But now negative or positive, I like to think of slope guy. So here's slope guy. All right, and if slope guy gives one of you a nightmare, then I'm sorry. Here he is. So slope guy helps you remember slopes. So a positive slope, your line goes up. Negative slope, your line goes down. A vertical line, the slope is undefined. And a horizontal line has a 0 slope. So here I'm like, oh, this has a positive slope. Okay, positive slope. So there's a positive linear association, not negative. Negative, the line would be dropping. Nonlinear association could be like this. So maybe it's an exponential association like this. Like it's, if you drew a curve, you're like, oh, this is like an exponential curve. But I didn't see this on the test, so you probably didn't learn this yet in 8th grade, exponential functions, but you will someday. So this would be a nonlinear association. It could be exponential. It could be quadratic. No association would be if it's just scattered like just really randomly here. Like you're like, I can't even begin to think how I would connect these. So that's no association. But here we do have an association. 40 is choice J. 2 more questions. Here we go. Question 41. We have a container that holds sugar is shaped like a cylinder. So here's our cylinder. And the radius is 3 inches. The height is 10.5, but I'm going to leave the units out because it's, multiple choice. We're not going to be graded on our substitution with units. Which measurement is closest to the volume of the container? So cylinder volume is pi r squared times h. And they told us the radius outright. None of this divide by 2 business when we're given the diameter. So here we have pi times the radius is 3, and it's being squared, times the height is 10.5. And then for this, just plug into the calculator all at once. So here we go. We have pi as second and the up arrow here. Then we have 3 squared, which if you just know that's 9, then great. You could just start plugging in, but the calculator will do all of that for us. So I just like to use parentheses for multiply. And we get 296.88. All right, so 296.88 is going to match up with choice B. Okay, so choice B. 42, our last question. We made it. So let's see. We have Frank and Erica are selling ribbons to raise money for the football team. The graph shows the linear relationship between the number of ribbons each of them has to sell left and the number of days that they have been selling ribbons. On which day does it appear that Frank and Erica will have the same number of ribbons left to sell? So same number of ribbons left to sell is the point of intersection here. On the 18th day, so this is the X is in days, that's the unit. Frank and Erica are going to have 15 ribbons left to sell. Okay, so if we think about what this point means in the context of the question, on day 18, Frank and Erica have 15 ribbons left to sell. So on which day does it appear that Frank and Erica will have the same number of ribbons left to sell? Day 15. Okay, so, oh, I'm sorry, day 18. I just why did I have? Oh, day 15. Oh, I'm sorry, day 18, 15 ribbons. So I labeled it here. Day 15. That's why I always double check. I like to write the units above. So day 18, 15 ribbons left. So choice J, we have day 18. There will be 15 ribbons left to sell. Okay, 42 questions in a row. Yes, quite a bit. Just under 2 hours too, with all the hellos and all that stuff. So I'm hoping this pacing was good for people to get them ready. Now, if anybody in the chat has questions, just feel free to ask. Otherwise, I will be signing out shortly, and people could just watch the replay to help prepare for this test. But if nobody has any questions, I will just say thank you for anybody who stopped by at the live stream, and good luck on your STAAR exams or any exam that you may be taking. If you just stopped by to say hello, good luck on your end of year exams. And yeah, I just appreciate you all, and just do your best. I know you could get anxious, preparing for tests, but just do your best to just study. And I would say put your time in, and then just put the best math that you have down on the paper. And the rest is just, just see how you do. All right. That's the best any of us could hope for. So good luck. All right. And thanks for coming by, but this is the end of the live stream. So take care.